Welcome to Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp. Join Mary as she tickles your taste buds with her salty wit and her exceptional palate, all whilst guiding us through the land of low sodium living. Of course, Living Low Sodium brought to you in part by the support of Reeses Barkery Pawtique. Why? Well, because your fur babies need to eat well. Anyway. Check them out, www.reesesbarkery.com, or give them a call at 815-363-7297. Today, we continue the power of food with our guest, Just Crock It. Hey, Mary.
Hello. So yes, we have our guest in the studio today, Maggie with Just Crock It. And, it's funny because I was talking this morning about time, and we never have enough time.
Time.
Right.
Yes.
Not the cooking spice time. Well, actually, I have a lot of time in my fridge, but I grow time. That's funny. I don't have time, but I grow time.
But you grow time.
But how many times have you said that I don't have time?
This week, a lot.
Right. So the funny thing about time, though, is that we make time for things that we value. And again, we were just talking about that a few minutes ago with Phil Wallace from Bridging Civil Tensions. And with food and health, as a whole, we put our health and eating better and changing our lifestyle is at the absolute bottom of the totem pole of things that we value or that we are going to make time for. So I personally had, I've always loved cooking. I've always loved food. I've always loved that side of things more as the entertainment side and not so much as a health side until my liver failed. So I'm part of that cliche of you don't change your ways until you're on the operating table, with them cracked your chest open, or, family members. You don't try and elicit change in your family until your husband, your wife, your spouse, your partner, your parents, your children, somebody has that life altering moment that could cause a significant issue. Now, the messed up part of it is that food can so significantly change your path that it sounds like such an easy solution, and it is, but it is the most difficult thing for people to do, is to change their lifestyle for their health. And I was asked probably 10 times yesterday how I have time to do all of the things that I do between 2 jobs and 10 chambers and Rotary and shows and food and people, and how do I have time to go home and cook a meal from scratch? It's because it's something that I value. And subsequently, now my husband is, as his doctors say, the most boring man on paper because he eats my food. Granted, now over time, he's also quit smoking and things like that. So it's made a difference. But just because we eat real food has made that difference. And I make time for the things I value. So, it sounds horrible, but my friends, my family, when you make time for everybody, you don't make time for yourself. And I've learned to make time for myself first and time with my spouse. So I will answer the phone at 3:00 in the morning for anybody. But I will tell you that if I don't answer the phone, it's one of 3 reasons. Something is terribly wrong. I'm driving, or I'm sitting down to a meal with my husband. So it doesn't mean I don't have my phone there because I have responsibilities. But if it's not you texting me 911, please call me back, I'm going to sit there and be present in a meal with my spouse. But we make time for things we value. So the funny thing about time is you don't need a lot of it to cook all the time. And that's where it was neat yesterday talking about, someone had asked me about my show today and what I was talking about. And then 2 seconds later, someone said, I don't know how you have the time to do your show and everything else that you do. And I said, I make time for the things I value. I value sharing my knowledge and sharing my show, and I value promoting local small businesses. And to be able to find somebody in my community that has a passion for cooking, but then come to find out that you also have low sodium it's just neat for me, because on one hand, and I've said this a million times over the years on the show, that low sodium is the number one diet prescribed by doctors, but it is the diet that nobody talks about. And it's literally at the top and the bottom of the grocery aisles. So if you're looking for a low sodium product and you're looking for canned beans, you need to look up or down, because the center of your eye is the product they want you to buy. And the healthy stuff that nobody wants to buy ends on the bottom shelf or the top shelf. So it's always amazing to me to have something that anybody who hits 40 and your doctor says, well, your blood pressure is starting to creep up, eat less salt. You're prone to heart disease, you better watch your salt intake. On the flip side of that, as you age, your taste buds die and you add more salt. So it's like a catch-22. But that being said, that low sodium isn't meant for everybody, because people who have gout, they need a perfect electrolyte balance to reduce the uric acid in their body. So going too low sodium for them can be problematic. But it's a little bit, again, it's always balance. I've talked about balance a million times. So with Just Crock It, how did you come to specialize in crock pots? Why crock pots?
Well, I started making these meals about 6 years ago when I found out that I was pregnant with my first child, because I was working full time at that time, and I realized it was going to be difficult cooking, taking care of a child, taking care of a household, and working full time. And I just basically started meal prepping, and I started making the freezer ready crockpot meals, so I can just take them out of the freezer, thaw them, and cook them, and I have a ready meal. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that my mom actually suggested that I start selling these meals, because that's when the meal prepping and the crock pots and the freezer meals started to become very popular. And I just decided, why not? Why not start selling these meals? And that's how I came up with Just Crock It.
So now it's funny, because on the surface, because I've had a lot of people tell me I should sell my food. I know there's a lot of people who like my food, and I do cook well. But low sodium is not for everybody. And as us in the low sodium world call people that aren't low sodium, we call you guys salties because you eat salt. You have a different palate. So to make food for people who eat salt that tastes as strong and vibrant as they want it, is one hurdle. But when people say, oh, you should sell your soups, to scale that up and make it for a lot of people, or the flip side of that, to go through the hoops legally to be able to sell your food. So how long of a process has it been to be able to get approved through the county and to your business and licensing and all of that stuff? Because that's got to be complicated in and of itself.
Yes, it was complicated, especially since I did not have a food background. I have a legal background, but
you're
not in food.
Not a trained, Juilliard chef?
Yes. So it was difficult. It was a learning curve, but I made it happen. It was easier for me because I was able to get into a commercial kitchen.
That's huge.
So all my meals are made in a commercial kitchen, and I'm certified through the county.
Right.
And it was an easier process for me. It was still difficult getting things up and running as far as, scaling the recipes and making sure that they are tasteful. When I switched over to low sodium, I played around a lot with the seasonings to make sure that the food is seasoned properly so that you don't really miss that salt. Because what I learned is that we use a lot of salts to make the food taste good because we don't use enough seasonings or not the proper seasonings. And so there's a lot of pepper, a lot of salt, but nothing really else in the food. So when I started playing around with the seasonings, I realized that there isn't a lot of seasonings that are no salt.
Nope.
And if you want to get decent seasonings, you have to pay a bundle, and you usually have to order them online and wait for them to be shipped, and you're paying shipping on top of that too.
Yep.
So I decided, why not also do my own seasoning line and use those seasonings also in my meals.
I was looking this morning and I saw your popcorn blend, which because I like supporting local and I get it, I could have gone to Sam's Club and bought a giant thing of popcorn seeds for super cheap, but I buy them from the Boy Scouts to support the Boy Scouts. And I haven't cracked into my big giant tub of popcorn seeds I bought because I haven't had popcorn seasoning. Because normally, I mean, not to talk to your competition, but Dax Spices, another company that I support, they have a popcorn, whatever, same thing, very much like what you have. But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, all right, now I'm going to make popcorn tonight.
Those seasonings, I actually, that was a experiment on my part. I'm like, why not try it? I've never used any seasonings on my popcorn, and going low sodium. Yes. And going, using no salt seasonings or no salt popcorn. I was like, we need some flavor in it. And so I started playing around with the seasonings, and the ranch seasoning and the Mexican spice, they are so good. You just use a little bit and it goes such a long way, and it gives that pop.
The one thing, I know that you use yeast in some of your products. Have you ever used, oh my God, my brain just went blank and now I can't remember the yeast product. They're yeast flakes, and now I can't remember what they're called. Holy crap. Can't go live on the air and be silent while I'm trying to think of it.
I'll look it up. You just keep talking.
Yeah, no, it's, I keep wanting to say baker's yeast, and it's not baker's yeast at all. That's not what it is. But they're yeast flakes, and I wish there was one of my crew listening right now. They'd chime in and tell me what they are so I can remember. But it almost gives a cheese flavor.
Yeah, I know what you're nutritional yeast.
Nutritional
Yes,
yeast.
nutritional
Oh my God.
Yes.
That was literally killing me.
I got it. It's nutritional yeast.
Yeah, thanks to the production in the background for getting on that. It's funny because, so a little bit of a disclaimer that when I looked through all of your ingredients, and I will say that I did, I read through every single nutritional label, every single list of ingredients. And I've told people, and we all have preached this in the low sodium world for many, 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 many years. When it comes to your health, it's your responsibility. You have to read the label. You have to tell what's in it. It doesn't matter how well your intentions are. Or whether you're a big giant corporation like Kraft that's finding, that has a team of marketers that specifically design packaging for you to purchase their stuff over someone else. It is your responsibility to read the package, because when it says low sodium, there might be sodium substitutes in there, or salt substitutes that react with medications like potassium chloride and calcium chloride. It doesn't mean that those things are bad and you shouldn't buy those products. It just means that you need to be aware of them, because if you're allergic to garlic, you're going to read the labels and go, I can't eat that because it's got garlic in it. But a lot of people don't know that those things interact with their heart medications and blood pressure medications. So I think there was only 2 items that I saw that had potassium or calcium chloride in them. But the first time that I had used nutritional yeast, some people had said that it had this off-putting taste. Me, I loved it. I thought it's like cheese. So I've actually used that on popcorn or in dishes to give that cheese flavor. And it's really, really, really high in protein.
Yes.
So I just didn't know if it was the same nutritional or same yeast that you're using in your products as if it was nutritional yeast or if there was another dehydrated yeast that you use or if it's just part of the products.
Nutritional yeast,
okay.
yes. If I do use it, then it's nutritional yeast, yes.
And that's what's funny about the palate. Like people who, you have those two groups of people who like cilantro and people who don't. I don't. My husband loves cilantro. No. He likes a lot of cilantro. I've grown to appreciate it now that I don't eat salt, so I will take it in small doses. Nutritional yeast is one of those things. Same with stinky cheeses, and same with potassium chloride. It has a metallic taste, and people forget that sodium, potassium, and calcium they're metals. So outside of their, there's still elements on the table. So they do. Some people, and I'm one of those people who the potassium chloride, I can taste it when it's in something. And the first time I discovered that is when I tried to make a Russian dressing out of, because it's pretty much ketchup. And I use the no salt Heinz version of ketchup, which is potassium chloride. So when you have to use that much ketchup to make a salad dressing, it tasted like a jar full of pennies, which was gross, and I threw it away. So now, I don't think people realize how much work and effort goes into making enough meals for a business. Like how much of your time is spent cooking?
A lot.
And prepping and cutting.
Yes. So it's a lot, depending on how many orders I have. So I make all the meals to order. I don't have any meals in stock. I don't make anything ahead of time. I make exactly how many meals I need for the week to fulfill the orders. So everything is made super fresh. And it does take me, on average, anywhere between 12 to 20 hours a week.
Oh my God.
So it's a lot. But that's the thing is I spend my time in the kitchen, so you don't have to.
And that's the thing. When you talk about time, some meals, there are just certain meals that there's no two ways around it. They take time. But that is such the beauty of, if it wasn't for my husband who's neurotic and I'm not allowed to leave a crock pot on when we leave the house, but that's the purpose of a crock pot. And if the GFI switches in your house are properly maintained, you could leave a crock pot running in your house all day to cook your meals. And it's funny seeing all these posts. There's the one guy that keeps posting that he's a single guy, doesn't have time to cook, and now he's eating your food. So it cracks me up to see some middle-aged white dude posting pictures talking about his plating, and I love everything about it. It's like this is the best. Because these crock pot meals, now when you usually, because I make stuff fresh, so how long does it take to thaw out one of your meals?
Usually about not even 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
You just throw it in the in your fridge overnight, and it should be ready for next in the morning.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it doesn't usually take as long. It depends also on the portion. So if you have a 2-person meal, it'll thaw out really fast. If you have the 6-portion meal, it'll take a little bit longer just because there's a lot more ingredients and a lot more meat that needs to thaw.
I guess in my brain, I'm thinking like a whole roast, but yours are all already prepped and diced and chopped, and so it's not like you have to thaw 6 pounds of something down.
Well, the roast, they do come as like tenderloin, so it's a whole roast. But the beef stew is already cut and chopped. Yeah. So what I tell people is, if you are not big on cooking, you don't even have to touch the meat when you use my meals.
I'm really surprised how many people that are like that. Like they don't want to touch the chicken. They don't want to touch anything.
I used to be like that.
Like, oh, I'll eat it. But
I used to
Ted, hey, Ted. Ted says, do you have any helpers or is it just you?
It's honestly just me and my husband. My husband is my delivery driver. Nice. And I do everything else. So it's a 2-man show, I guess. And it works. At times it is tough. I did have to scale back a lot last year because it just had gotten to be too big and too much for me. But we make it work.
I was going to say too big for you because now you're everywhere. Because everywhere I turn around. So I think you're getting bigger and you're going to get bigger.
Yes.
Now I noticed that for obvious reasons, there's a lot more logistically that goes on with shipping your actual meals, but do you ship your spices?
I do ship my spices. Okay. They're much easier to ship than frozen meals. I do not ship any meals because it's just logistically, it doesn't make sense for me at this point. And it goes back to me trying to keep my prices as low as I possibly can because I do want to make my meals affordable.
I was really shocked at your prices. I'm not going to lie. And I'm not saying that because she's expensive either. I was really shocked at how inexpensive your meals are. And then I was kind of shocked that I was shocked because I'm the one who's always preaching to people that when I buy in bulk and I buy from the farms, so I did. I dropped a big chunk of change to buy half a cow and a pig and whatever and have them processed and in my freezer. But the price per pound is actually really affordable especially now, compared to what you're paying in the grocery stores. Now I get it. Not everybody's going to buy from the farm, and it's even less expensive if you buy from someplace like Sam's Club or Costco.
Yes.
But
quality.
Right.
So that's the thing is for me, I try to keep my prices as low as possible, but I do not sacrifice quality.
Right.
So I make sure that I get quality meat, especially beef. My beef is always grass-fed.
It makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. I unfortunately, as far as meat goes, I cannot get them from farms because they come frozen. So I have to get fresh meat. But what I did last year and what I'm going to be doing this year also is I partner up with local farmers and get my vegetables from them. So I do get locally sourced vegetables and support the local farmers. Pautique's farm is one of my favorites. And so,
I'm sorry, which farm?
Pautique's.
Oh yeah.
So I love them. Yes.
For those of you that don't know, she's up on the Wisconsin border in Hebron off 173. And she has an amazing greenhouse with her hanging baskets and flowers and plants. Oh my gosh, it's amazing up there. Which of course you can find all of our farmers at Fresh from the Farm, McHenryCounty.com, which that is expanding soon as well. Because I'm tired of getting messages that I need to expand the group. So we'll be making that bigger. Now, I wonder if there is an option. No, because of the processing times for the farmers.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get around that obstacle. But so far it's been working. I've been getting pretty good meats, and honestly, everyone is happy with the quality of the meat. My beef especially, everyone is raving about the beef.
I think that and there's 100% truth to the fact that you really do need to pay attention, and that the corporate world for any product, not just food, they're very good at cage-free eggs, for instance. It means a whole lot of garbage. It means absolutely nothing. For those of you that want to be disgusted, look it up and research it, because cage-free just means that your chickens were raised in a high tunnel with no lights and big giant fans, because air conditioning costs money. And if you want your chicken at $1 a pound, then that means they're not going to pay for lights. They're not going to pay for cool air. They're in a tunnel. And the only thing that cage-free means is that tunnel is open and it's a giant, quarter acre of space that these birds can stand there. And there's people whose job it is, no joke, their job every day is to go through this place and pick up dead chickens. And it's horrible. And so when you pay attention in the grocery market, it's not that you can't get good eggs or good beef or good products, but you're going to pay for it. Like, I pay for my yogurt because I researched the brand, and I either get Icelandic skyr, which the brand is actually Icelandic, and it is Icelandic skyr, or I get Siggy's, which they call it yogurt, but it's Icelandic skyr. It's made from better products. It's made from better stuff. And the same with your eggs. If you pay attention to what you're doing, and you have to do the research, but the meat is the same way, but you're not going to get it at $1 a pound.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but if you're buying chicken, and I get it, sometimes the choice between what's right for our environment or what's right for animals and putting food on your children's table means that you're buying chicken at $1 a pound. I get it. I'm not stupid. And I'm going to say that I've made those same decisions. And if it came to it today, I'd make them again. But if you want to shift the balance, buy organic, buy better quality, pay attention, and don't get swooped in. Because if you think that you're buying eggs or beef or protein or anything for $1 or $2 or $3, and it's whatever it says on the packaging, like the cage free, you're not buying what you think, because it costs money. That's why farmers charge. Although I shouldn't say all farmers, because I have a friend of mine, Sue, who I've been threatening to have on the show for a long time, where she lives. And I yell at her all the time because she posts eggs and her farm eggs are $2 a dozen.
Oh, where?
She's in a different state. But I was like, come on, just once a week, just drive here and sell them at the farmer's market. You can sell them for $2.50 a dozen and you will blow everybody out of the water.
Yeah.
But I mean, they can sell them for that because their costs are way different, which is why, we created the farm group, is because people out here, they needed a resource to tell people about it. And I think there was like 7 posts the other day about eggs.
Yes.
And, but it is, I mean, I don't think people realize how much it makes the difference to buy vegetables and produce and beef and stuff like that is better quality.
Well, and then it also goes back to your health.
Right.
I mean, I get it too, that in some situations you do have to buy $1 a pound chicken. Right. But if you choose other options that are healthier, it'll make you healthier, less time spent at the doctor, less time paying your medical bills,
right,
that are much higher than, buying organic or buying more vegetables and fruits. So it basically goes hand in hand, and it has a big part on your health.
And the more I think people forget how much we have the power to influence those things, because the choices you make at the grocery store, the things you click on online is what you see and get more of. So when you buy the garbage and you click on the garbage, then you get more garbage. Good morning, Gwen. She almost forgot about us. So Gwen is a longtime follower. What happened to my page here? Why did I just lose my stuff? So I myself think it's hilarious, because from a firsthand perspective, over the years, as I've turned my husband on to better foods, he's become quite the snob, because surprisingly, his palate, honestly, is probably better than mine. I smoked for 25 years and so did he, but somehow he quit smoking and his sense of smell got better.
Oh.
Mine was almost completely gone. And then after having COVID last fall, it's like virtually non-existent. So my palate's horrible now, but his is better than mine. But as I've turned him on slowly, one bit at a time, buying fresh garlic, and we were like, holy cow, how is this so different? The first time I got garlic from Garlic Underground, and I brought 3 different types of garlic home. He says, what do you mean there's different garlic? There's like 90 million different kinds of garlic, like onions. There's tons of them. And the same thing, I think I brought chicken home one day from the farmer's market. One of the first farmer's markets that I did. And I don't do farmer's markets because I don't sell my product. For those of you that think I sell my product, I don't. But I run a farmer's market. And I didn't have anything to dinner, so I had brought a big, just cut in half chicken home, and it was frozen. So I said, whatever, screw it, because it was cut in half and it's a small bird, because the ones from the farm are smaller. You're not getting grocery sized birds. So I just took an entire, I use Pacific Foods organic broths. I love them. Whole box, so 4 cups of broth with rosemary, thyme, basil in the oven, just the birds. And I'm like, whatever, if it overcooks, it overcooks at this point. I really don't care. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I haven't had a day off. This is what I'm doing. And Ben's like, how is this not like dry and disgusting? Like, I know it had broth in there, but it was purely because it's a farm bird.
Yeah.
And now we like 2 weeks later, I got something from the grocery store, and both of us are like, this is disgusting. Have you heard? I know this is going to sound really weird. It's an actual thing. Have you heard of woody breast?
No, I have not.
So chickens, if you go to the grocery store and pay attention and look at the poultry in the case, you'll notice they have white stripes.
I have heard about the white stripes. I didn't know the name.
So there's two different things. There's the white stripes. So commercially processed birds are fatter now. If you went on vacation to Italy or Europe, and there's a family that farms and they have some chickens running around, and they grab a chicken and kill a chicken and process a chicken and make it for dinner, they're very lean and tiny little things. They're not these big boob freaking fat things that we raise here, because more meat means more money. But because there's so much fat, those white stripes are actually fat, which means what used to be chicken is healthier than beef. Granted, chicken breast might be healthier than a ribeye because of the fat content. But if you get, a filet or a New York strip that's leaner in a chicken breast, your better option actually these days is the beef over the chicken, because calorically they're the same. But there's also this, what they've called as woody breast. It's almost, the meat is chewy and crisp.
Yes.
Like a piece of fruit. And it's very off-putting to me. Like this isn't what chicken should feel like when you're eating it. So to me, anytime that happens, I can't eat it because it feels like it's gone bad. Like something's wrong with it. But that's what and there's very little research, and because no one wants to talk about it, because that's what's happening with commercially processed products.
Yes. And it's hard to find good, decent chicken breasts. It's hard, especially in the grocery store. It's hard.
Well, there's no way to know.
Yeah.
You can't, obviously you're not opening the packages and playing with poultry in the grocery store. That would just be beyond weird. That's a whole new level of weirdness in the world. I'm sure there's probably some crazy lady somewhere that does it, but
like, for example, the Costco chicken. So it's widely known Costco chicken is the cheapest chicken you can find. And it is, because it's about $2.50 per pound, I want to say.
Yeah.
But it's gross chicken. It's honestly, it's not even
Costco.
Worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it, because it's just like you said, it tastes off-putting.
Right. It's bland. The texture's wrong.
It's just
gross.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
It's sad because, and I had gotten in many debates about the fact that I like, because it's not as bad now as it used to be, but when I first had to go low sodium, the biggest complaint I had is my doctor sent me home with a single piece of paper with how much sodium is in a teaspoon of salt on one side, and a chicken recipe, which really wasn't a chicken recipe. It was grill a piece of chicken on a grill or a cooktop and use Mrs. Dash seasoning. Like, that's not a recipe. I'm sorry. But nowhere in this document did it say, also pay attention because most of the chicken and poultry you buy in the grocery store is brined, which means it's been soaked in a salt solution. So it goes from 60 to 95 milligrams of sodium per serving to 300 to 900 milligrams per serving based on how much salt they decided to soak it in. It's better now. So at least now you can find the majority of at least not all poultry, because turkey is almost impossible to find that's not brined. But all, turkey and pork is almost predominantly brined, but chicken at least isn't brined, but now it's got this disgusting weird texture and it's full of fat. So it's like, well,
yeah. And so for turkeys, a few years back, we started getting them from the farm, for Thanksgiving especially. And it makes a whole world of difference.
I have a picture somewhere. I spatchcocked a turkey. So spatchcock, you cut the breastbone out. No, flip that. Cut the spine out and push it down. And when they're small little chickens, they just push down, or usually you do it with like a Cornish hen or a game hen. But we had It was a long story, but my husband and I ended up having Thanksgiving by ourselves. So we had to eat a 16-pound bird all by ourselves. And I was frustrated. So I literally just hacked away, took the spine out. But a turkey's breastbone is really hard, so it wouldn't lay flat. So it looked like my turkey was like on display, spreading its legs. And then I'll have to pull up the picture for you because I was in tears, dying laughing. So Ben comes in. What's so funny? And he sees this big roasting pan with this turkey. Looks like it's like in a gynecological chair or something, just sprawled out. I was dying laughing. But the funny thing is that huge bird, because it was opened like that, cooked in about an hour.
Oh, wow.
So now every year I spatchcock my turkey. Actually, I've talked to Hephzibah Farms for the future to see if she can have mine processed and cut.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So that if they're cut either in half, which is the least expensive option, or maybe at least cut in quarters. I don't need the whole thing butchered, but when it's cut in half, then I can buy a few of them and I can have turkey all year because I can freeze them because I like making turkey pot pies out of them.
Oh.
That is my ultimate. Because if I make those little metal tins you can buy, I'll make the turkey pot pie filling. And then when I bake them, I won't freeze the croissant top, but when I bake them, then I'll add the croissant top later.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that way I can have turkey pot pies year round because I like food. Who do you get your turkeys from?
From Pautique's.
Oh,
yep.
I try and spread my love because since I've run the farm group, I like to try and support everybody. So my beef comes from Wanda. My turkeys come from Hephzibah. Most of my poultry I get from Homestead Farms because she's at my farmer's market. And then my vegetables I get from whichever one I happen to be visiting that market or that day in general. See, Ted, you suck. Ted says he had COVID 3 times and his palate got better. Like that's not fair. Whatever. I mean, I guess. So now why low sodium?
So, my husband started not feeling so well. He actually thought he had COVID, and we found out that he's in heart failure.
Oh.
So we freaked out like anyone
sure.
would, because he's only 38 and we have 2 small kids at home.
Right.
And so we started doing our research, talking to doctors, and it was salt. And we never really, we watch what we eat, but we never really paid attention to what we ate. And so once we started looking at how much sodium there is in everything, we realized that, okay, we need to change it all up. And we never really ate a lot of processed foods, but now we completely cut it out. We try to eat as clean as we possibly can. And because it does take time to prepare food from scratch, we use a lot of my crock pot meals at home because it's just easier.
Sure. Yeah.
It's easier, it's faster, and I can make sure that my husband's eating. Yes. And make sure that we're eating healthier.
Right.
And all the vegetables are already chopped and processed. So I don't have to do that. And that's how we basically just started eating healthier and low sodium. We realized how much it plays a part, something that, adding that extra salt over time adds up.
The amount of times people, and I usually their intentions are good, but the amount of times someone says to me, well, I don't add any salt. All right, well, that's great that you don't add any salt, but, and again, it's not that canned vegetables or frozen vegetables are bad, because this day and age, most of them are canned or frozen at their peak. So they're the best that you're going to get them unless you grow them yourself or have a farmer's market readily available to you. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people who, that are on that healthy side that say that's bad when it's not. But you do have to pay attention. And I specifically remember shopping when I was finally healthy enough and strong enough. And my sister took me out to the grocery store for the first time like 2 weeks after I got home from the hospital, and wandering around, and I was so excited because I finally found something that had no salt in it, and it was Italian ice. So it's essentially just fucking sugar water. Like, but I was just finally out something other than obviously a vegetable. But then even that, I went home, and once I started doing my research, and beets and celery and carrots are all high in sodium. A lot of the root vegetables are higher in sodium, and sodium is in just about everything outside of rice and wheat grains. And so the amount of people who tell me, like, I made something but I didn't add salt,
but there's still sodium in there.
Someone offered me some cookies the other day because I love sharing my cookies with other people. They said, oh, well, I omitted the salt from the recipe. Well, if it's a baked good, then you probably, especially a cookie, it's probably got both baking soda and baking powder, which is sodium bicarbonate. Like, it's still sodium. It's in everything. People boil eggs. Well, put baking soda in there because it helps the eggs peel better. Well, eggs peel better or worse based on the age of the egg. Not really if you add baking soda or I mean, you can tell yourself that. But you can also tell yourself that putting a wet paper towel on your counter is going to stop your eyes from watering from onions. I read that somewhere. I put a fan on behind me on one counter. There's this, you can buy battery operated fans from the hardware store. So I put it on the counter behind me. So when I chop onions, it blows the sulfur filled air away from me so my eyes don't water.
Oh, I just usually run the sink.
Yeah.
And that helps.
Yep. If you cut them under cold water, it stops the onion from releasing its sulfur stuff. My useless knowledge of all these things. Ted says he has a small electric handsaw for cutting bones out of meat. I mean, or bone marrow. I get that. I have soup bones. And the first time I made, I made ropa vieja recently in my crock pot. And because I had beef tongue, I put beef tongue in there. But some of them were soup bones. And it was funny because Ben was like, what's the goop inside the bone? Like, that's the bone marrow that everybody's like, spread that on toast because it's like butter. It's amazingness. But as soon as I picked it up, it dropped in the crock pot and disintegrated. And then it was nowhere to be found. Whatever. So now you started doing farmers markets.
Yes.
I should say a farmer's market.
Yes. So I am only at the Pearl Street Market this year.
That's in McHenry?
That's in McHenry on Pearl Street at Veterans Park. And our opening was yesterday.
And how'd it go?
It went actually pretty well. I was really excited to actually be out there since I'm usually in the closed off kitchen and don't really get out much. So it was actually really fun to see some of my customers at the market and also to actually roll out my seasonings.
Your spice blends?
Yes. And it was fun. I definitely for next year want to add on another one. I decided.
I have one I can suggest.
Yes.
Selfishly, it's my market, just saying.
Yes, I wanted to do 2 this year, but I learned from my mistakes from last year. I don't want to go too fast, too big, because I don't want to spread myself too thin.
It is, and I don't think people realize that even when it's something that you love doing, if you do it too much, you'll get burnt on it.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason why I don't sell my food. I mean, I give away a lot of food. I ask my neighbor. I give away a lot of food. But I do, much like you do, I usually cook for one day. I'm sure you probably have a day or 2 or 3 that you cook, but I'll make a lot because it's just as easy to make 5 batches of taco meat as it is to make 1 batch of taco meat. And then I can freeze it.
Exactly.
And have it for 8 million. So Gwen, our guest, she is fascinating. I love her. You should come visit us here by me and you can stay at my house and I'll feed you. And you can have her crock pot meals. Maggie is from Just Crock It. Unfortunately, you have to live by me to get here in McHenry County or Lake County, so pretty much northern Illinois, to get her crock pot meals. She makes pre-made crock pot meals that you can purchase to order. You are also, before I forget, she also has a spice blend. So the spices she will ship, Gwen. So much like Dax Spices, she's got all of the different spice blends and popcorn blends and barbecue blends and all of this other stuff. So you can try her spices through her website, justcrockit.net, for those of you that are looking for them. I will be getting some myself because I'm out of popcorn. So that is who she is. Gwen is, I've known her. So Shaking the Salt, that is a Facebook group, sport group for people who are on low sodium, which is funny because that's kind of how I learned about you, because you had posted, because obviously there's a lot of people that want to post in those groups, and there's a lot of people who just care about money and they don't care about us as a low sodium group, and they're not really sure what they're posting. So we're very particular about who we let in the group and who we let advertise. And that's when I had learned about you, because you wanted to share your spice blend. So I had to backtrack, and then discovered that you lived in my town. Was like, what the? And one of our admins is like, I think someone's stomping on your turf. I said, what do you, it says she's in your, I was like, holy crap, she's literally in my backyard.
Yes.
So I reached out and found out that you do all of these amazing things. Now is this something you've always had, or did you just roll out this whole new grill it idea?
So the grilling meals, I actually started doing them last year when I started Just Crock It, because, well, crock pot season is usually the fall winter season.
Correct.
Which personally I don't understand why, because
in
the summer I mainly use the crock pot in the summer because I want to be outside,
right,
not inside in the kitchen cooking.
And you don't want to heat up your house with the oven.
Exactly. So I mainly use my crock pot during the summers, not the winters. But to each their own. And so to keep the business basically going, I decided to roll out the grill ready meals, because I know from my personal experience, when we grill and we have parties, for family and friends, it takes a lot of time to prep it. And then if you forget to marinate your meat, or, to chop the vegetables and all that, it takes time.
It does.
And sometimes even during the weeknights, it's like, oh, weather's perfect, let's grill. I'm like, oh, I haven't marinated the meat.
Right.
And you have to marinate, for grill. I'm sorry, but you have to marinate it. It's so much better. And so with this, it's all ready for you. So if you are planning on grilling like in a weeknight, like when you come home from work, thaw your meat out during the day, and it's ready for you to just put on the grill, and no effort.
So it's funny because we grill year round. It doesn't matter. There's snow on the grill, you brush the grill off. The only thing that I ever say is just make sure you check your grill, because you might roast a family of mice. So just always make sure you look for nests in your grill, because we had that experience once. But we grill year round. So now Wanda Farm, because they don't butcher wrap their beef, so it's the vacuum seal bags. So it is very easy, I've discovered, as long as there's no bone in it, for me to put that whole vacuum sealed bag in a sink full of lukewarm water, and my steaks are thawed out in like 10 minutes.
Yes. So there are various thawing methods. The one method that I will never ever say to do is the microwave method, because I think personally it's just gross.
Yes, I agree with you.
If you do that, please cook your meat right away.
Yes.
If you do have to do that right away, you should cook it. But you can thaw it in underwater, lukewarm water, preferably running water. And again, make sure you cook it within 2 or 3 hours.
And that's the only thing that whenever I thaw in the sink, if it's not going to, I pull it out of the freezer, it goes in the sink while my grill is preheating.
Yes.
I hope she's not listening. I had a friend, I won't name her. I came over one day, and she has a pack of chicken sitting in her windowsill thawing for dinner. I was like, how are you not dead? How have you not had salmonella like 20 times in your, maybe you're just so immune to it at this point that you don't even know. She's like, oh, I've always done that. My mom did it. I'm like, oh my God, like 6 hours. She just lets it thaw. So if you're not immediately cooking it afterwards, it should be properly thawed in the refrigerator. If you really want to get super fancy, there's an episode of Alton Brown where he creates a circulator, much like sous vide, but with cold water for thawing, which at that point you might as well just put it in your refrigerator. But it was still an interesting episode to watch. But I cook it almost immediately. But it's amazing when with those vacuum sealed bags, because none of the water or anything gets in, how fast that stuff.
Yes.
And that's what I was thinking about with your crock pot meals, because I'm like, holy crap.
And everything for the crock pot is vacuum sealed.
Right. I mean, it makes it easier, because then if I didn't want to wait for 24 hours, I literally, because with crock pots, I mean, you really shouldn't put a giant chunk of frozen stuff in there.
No.
But that doesn't mean that when stuff is broken up or in smaller chunks, especially if there's going to be liquid in there, that it can go in there partially frozen. It doesn't have to be 100% thawed unless it's, a 3-pound roast or something of that nature, where the center of it, because it's just never going to cook in time, and then it's just a bad idea. And yes, if my husband is listening, I know I've made that mistake and thrown something away because I was lazy and I knew better.
With the vegetarian and the vegan meals that I carry, you can actually put them in frozen because there's no meat.
Right.
It's just vegetables and beans. And so those are fine. If you do use an Instant Pot, you can put in frozen meat in the Instant Pot because it heats up fast.
So fast, yeah.
Where it's safe. But other than that, preferably.
So have you ever done like canning?
No. My mom is huge on canning. I tried it. I'm not really good at it.
I promised myself that I'm gonna learn. So I've canned. I can my jams and my jellies and my syrups. I make a blueberry ginger syrup. It's amazing. You can drink it with a straw. It's so good. And then I love ginger. So I have a strawberry ginger jam that I make. So I've done those, but those, they really, technically, depending on who you talk to, if you read it in a book, it says, yes, you have to process it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever the heck. But because of the fruit and the acidity and the sugar and everything, you don't really have to once it's hot and it seals itself.
Yes.
I don't really call that canning, even though it is. But I had a friend make me potatoes. And because in the low sodium world, there's certain things that are hard to flavor up without salt.
Potatoes is one of them.
you can use, and that's the thing is, anytime when I make stews and soups, I actually make the potatoes separate and then add them at the end, because you can if you over salt your tomato sauce or your soup, you can put a potato in it and it sucks the salt out of the soup and fixes your soup. So I tend to add it at the end so that I can still have the potatoes, but then it doesn't suck all the flavor out of my soups. But she canned potatoes with garlic and rosemary. And the canning process sucks all of that flavor into the potato.
That's interesting.
So they were garlic rosemary potatoes. I'm like, I want to make, but certain things in the world of canning, you have to know what you're doing. And to can certain vegetables like green beans or potatoes or meat, you do have to know what you're doing. And it's a long process.
It is.
It's not like making jam where it takes 2 seconds and the thing seals. You really, and I tried canning once. I made a batch of pickles. And my husband was terrified I was going to blow up the house because he watched some YouTube video how someone didn't seal the lid on their pressure canner and it blew up through the oven. That does happen, but it is not easy to do. For those of you that are fearful of canning, it's actually really difficult to blow up a pressure canner. That doesn't mean that I'm not terrified of it because he showed me that video. So whenever I do canning, it's in my garage on the portable propane stove thing. But of all things, I think it was Paddock's. I think she was the one who had said, or maybe it was Anita up at Hesaba. But I had said we should do a canning class.
You should.
Because I would love.
Yes.
to learn.
I would go to that class.
Right.
Yes.
So Dykstra's farm put on a butchering class.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up being more of a teacher's aide because I know how to butcher things, not very well because I'm not a butcher, but other than a couple points and, the glands and stuff like that. And we got to butcher, and it was really inexpensive because she charged pretty much the cost of the pig. So it's like, it cost me like $150 to get half a pig.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's not a,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a guinea hog. Or it is a guinea hog. It's not like a Hereford or Berkshire where the pigs are ginormous. Guinea hogs are a little bit smaller, so it's not a ton of meat. But she puts on these classes, and that's when I had said something about how fun would it be to do more of these classes like your crock pot.
Yes.
Show people not just your pre-made meals, but how to do all of this stuff. I think it would be I think there'd be a ton of people who would want to take that. At least I would. But I'm a geek. I like the cooking.
Yeah. I'm open to that, definitely.
So now how can people buy your products?
So easiest way is, and only way, honestly, is to go online, justcrockit.net. And you can go on the order form and choose whether you want pickup or delivery.
Okay.
Pickup location is at Hidden Pearl on Green Street. And just check your email. I will let you know when your meals are ready in the freezer to be picked up. And you can pick them up on your schedule. Once they're there in the freezer ready, it's anytime you have time to go to Green Street, you can pick them up.
How long does it take to, like, from when, if I place an order today, how long does it take to usually get an order?
Right now, because I'm so busy, I'm trying to schedule it properly. It's about 7 days.
That's still not bad.
Not bad, yes. I used to be a lot faster when I had less deliveries or less orders. But at this point, I have to kind of stack them to make sure that I can get everyone in. So it's about 7 days. And if I can get you in earlier, I will let you know via email.
Yeah. Gwen has been canning for 60 years.
Oh.
You cheat. I love that you say that, it's so easy. No, it's not, Gwen. You come here and can for me, and I will cook for you and send you home with some crock-pot meals. How's that sound? And of course, Mimi says, I'm disappointed due to location. It's not available. It's funny, Mimi, that we are actually, the next series that I will be doing, that I'm working on planning now, is going to be a little bit more interactive out at the farms and at some, but the venue and the logistics of doing a show when you cook on the show in the time frame, even for our little tiny internet radio thing, is complicated.
Yes.
It's not as easy as people think it is to take all of our stuff with us and go. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll make Just Crock It big enough to where she can start shipping all over the country and be the next Kraft Foods. Why not?
Yeah.
Who knows? I say it rocks. The spices, though, you can ship all over the United States, just not with outside of the United States. There's no international yet. So if you're looking, you can go to justcrockit.net. And of course, everybody, please, please, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. The more subscribers that we have, the more luxuries we have, and the further and the farther our reach is for the places and the people that we support, like Just Crock It. If you are in McHenry, Lake County, or in the Northern Illinois area, for all of you low sodium lovers, or if you just like food, because just because our food is low sodium doesn't mean it's not good, check out Just Crock It, because you can stop by and pick it up. Now you, I think, also have some at the shop up in Spring Grove.
Yes. So I actually have now 2 locations.
How do we get these little freezers in more locations
so
that I can go to a freezer?
Yeah, so in Spring Grove, there's a freezer that's stacked with my meals. It is a limited quantity over there and not my full menu. But if you need a meal, it's a grab and go. Spring Grove, it's right next door to Billy's. The name is Three Little Birds Boutique and Artisan Market. And also my seasonings are going to be carried by 301 Barbecue Boys in Johnsburg. So I'm actually dropping off the seasonings today over there. So they will be carrying them too.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Fabulous, everybody. Well, we will be next week. We have Joe with Wanda's Farm where I get my beef from on the show. And then I actually have to announce some more shows here. So
Yeah.
we'll be here next week, same day, same channel.
You should talk to Dee Snider and just have your theme song, I Want to Crock.
Right.
That's it, right?
Dee Snider, you listening?
Yeah,
Hashtag Dee Snider.
That's right.
Call us up.
All right. Hey, for all of us here at 216 The Net and Living Low Sodium, this is another great episode. Come back at 1 for the Neighborhood Pulse, 3 for In the Know with Steph and Joe, 8 for the Dream Home Experts live from the Quiet Cool Studios. Mary, see, I killed that one.
Yeah, we're still live on Facebook.